Have you ever sat down to do something important and felt your own mind drag you in the opposite direction? You know what you need to do. You can picture the outcome clearly. But something inside you resists. You open your phone. You make another cup of coffee. You tell yourself you will start in just a few minutes, and then the day is gone. Most people assume this is a willpower problem, that if they just wanted it badly enough, they would do it. So they try harder, they set stricter schedules, they punish themselves for failing, and the resistance gets stronger. But what if your brain is not broken? What if the very way you are approaching your own mind is what is making it work against you? There is a Japanese concept that explains this with startling precision, and once you understand it, the way you relate to your own thoughts will never be the same. But first, let me take you back 600 years to a small dojo on the outskirts of Kyoto. It was the year 1493. A young swordsman named Kenji arrived at the dojo of a master named Takeda Hiroshi, a man who had never lost a duel in 40 years. Kenji was talented, everyone said so, but he had a problem that was slowly destroying his ability to fight. Every time he stepped onto the dueling floor, his mind would flood with doubt. His hands would shake. He would see the attacks coming and still hesitate. His body and his mind were at war with each other. He had tried everything his previous teachers suggested. He repeated affirmations before duels. He forced himself to think confident thoughts. He punished himself after losses with extra training. Nothing worked. The harder he tried to silence the doubt, the louder it screamed. Takeda watched him train for 1 week without saying a single word. Then on the 8th morning he called Kenji to sit with him beneath an old pine tree in the courtyard. Takeda poured 2 cups of tea. He placed them both on the stone between them. He said nothing for a long time. Then he pointed at the steam rising from the cups and said something Kenji did not understand at all. He said, "Do not push the river." Kenji frowned. He had come here to learn to fight, not to watch tea. Takeda smiled. He said, "You are at war with your own mind. Every thought you try to kill grows stronger from the battle. The river does not stop flowing because you push against it. It only pushes back." Kenji sat with this for days. He did not understand it fully. But something in him had shifted. Something had quietly begun. What Takeda was describing has a name in Japanese philosophy. It is called Mushin, pronounced Mushin. Mushin is often translated as no mind, but that translation is misleading. It does not mean emptiness. It means a mind that is not stuck, a mind that flows through thoughts rather than fighting them. The problem most of us face is not that we have difficult thoughts. It is that we treat every difficult thought as a threat that must be defeated. And modern psychology has a name for why that strategy fails. It is called the ironic rebound effect. When you try to suppress a thought, your brain actually increases its activity around that thought. The forbidden thing becomes louder. The Japanese understood this intuitively long before neuroscience had words for it. And they built a practice around working with the mind rather than against it. Here is how that practice works. The first principle is called Zanshin. Pronounced Zanshin, it means remaining mind or lingering awareness. In swordsmanship, Zanshin is the state of calm alertness that follows an action. The warrior completes a strike but remains fully present. He does not celebrate. He does not tighten with anxiety. He simply notices what is happening next. Applied to your own mind, Zanshin means watching your thoughts without becoming them. When resistance rises, when doubt creeps in, when your brain tells you that you cannot do this, Zanshin says, "I see that thought. I am not that thought." Then you act anyway. Think of a still pond. A stone hits the surface and ripples spread. Zanshin does not try to stop the ripples. It simply waits for the water to become still again. because it always does. Neuroscientists call this metacognition, the ability to observe your own thinking. Research in psychological flexibility, a field pioneered by Dr. Stephen Hayes, shows that people who observe their thoughts without judgment are significantly better at following through on difficult tasks than those who try to suppress or fight their mental state. The second principle is called Kaizen, pronounced Kaizen. Most people have heard this word in the context of business efficiency, but its original meaning runs deeper. It means continuous improvement through very small steps. The Kaizen approach to a resistant mind does not ask you to overcome all your doubts before you act. It asks you to take one action so small that your brain does not register it as a threat, not a full workout. Just put on your shoes, not the whole chapter. Just read one paragraph, not the entire conversation. Just send one message. What is your brain actually afraid of? Effort, pain, failure? Kaizen says, make the first step so small that those fears have nothing to grab onto. This maps directly onto what neuroscientists call the intention-action gap, the moment between deciding to do something and actually beginning it. The gap is where resistance lives. Kaizen closes that gap by making the beginning almost invisible. Do you see how these two principles work together? Zanshin gives you the awareness to notice resistance without being ruled by it. Kaizen gives you a bridge small enough to cross when resistance is high. A teacher in Osaka named Hiromi Nakamura discovered this in her own life after struggling for years with a pattern most of her colleagues shared. Every evening after a long day with her students, Hiromi would come home exhausted and make promises to herself. Tomorrow she would exercise. Tomorrow she would work on her novel. Tomorrow she would call her sister back. But tomorrow never came. She would sit on her couch and feel the weight of all she had not done, and the evening would dissolve into television and regret. She tried discipline. She wrote rigid schedules and taped them to her wall. She tried motivational content, watching videos every morning to pump herself up before work. She even downloaded 3 different productivity apps. Each system worked for 3 or 4 days before collapsing. A colleague gave her a small book on Kaizen, written by a Japanese organizational psychologist. She read it skeptically. The advice seemed almost embarrassingly simple. She started with one thing. Every night before she slept, she would lay her exercise clothes on the floor beside her bed. That was it. That was the whole practice for the first week. The following week, she added, when you wake, put the clothes on. Do not think about the workout. Just wear the clothes. The week after that, she walked to the end of her street and back. 10 minutes. She told herself she would not judge the size of the effort. She would only track whether she showed up. 3 months later, she was running 4 mornings a week. Not because she had conquered her resistance, but because she had stopped giving it something to fight against. She had made starting so small that her brain no longer saw it as a danger. Her novel is still in progress, but she has written 12,000 words she would never have written before. This is not just about exercise or writing or productivity. This goes deeper. The brain that works against you is not your enemy. It is a protection system that was designed for a world of physical threats. It conserved energy. It avoided pain. It kept your ancestors alive. The problem is that your brain cannot easily tell the difference between a dangerous predator and a difficult email you have been putting off. So what do you do with a protection system that has become overprotective? You do not fight it. You understand it. You work with it. You might be thinking, but what if the resistance is really strong? What if I have been stuck for years? What if I have tried small steps and they did not work either? Here is the truth that the samurai traditions understood. The obstacle is not separate from the path. The resistance you feel is information. It is showing you exactly where your next small step lives. Miyamoto Musashi, the greatest swordsman in Japanese history and the author of the Book of 5 Rings, wrote this: "You must understand that there is more than one path to the top of the mountain." He was not writing about hiking. He was writing about the relationship between intention and action. about the fact that the mind that says you cannot is using the same energy as the mind that says you can. Both are movements of water in the same river. Remember the river. Remember that you cannot stop it by pushing against it, but you can learn to flow with it. And flowing is not weakness. Flowing is the strategy. A stone in a river does not stop the water, but over years the water shapes the stone into something smooth and beautiful. You are both the river and the stone, and the friction between them is not a problem to solve. It is the process itself. Your brain is not working against you. It is doing exactly what it was built to do. The ancient teachers of Japan understood that the greatest battles are fought in silence, not on a dueling floor, inside the space between a thought and an action. So the next time your mind tells you it is not ready, remember Zanshin. See the thought, stay present. Then remember Kaizen. Find the step so small it costs you almost nothing. Do not push the river. Let the water find its path, because it always does.